Well, hello there, everyone. Let me get my screen up, and there we go. We're all here today. So after yesterday, after thinking about it for a long time, hi, I'm Carol, the Crafty Grandma. Welcome to my lovely program today. Today we are just finishing up our Disappearing 9 patch, and I did end up deciding to go with a table runner. Played with it a lot yesterday. Put it up in different areas as far as where I wanted things to go. Made it into 4 squares, so it was a square quilt. The more I looked at it, I really like the way it looks as a table runner. So I'm going to stick with that. And if you look at it, this square, this square, this square, and this square are from the solid blue. That's that solid, all solid blue and white piece square that we cut up. And then this one, this one, this one, and this one are all the solid red squares that we had. So they're all the same. And they're on top of each other, and it just sort of worked out that way. But one of the mixed up ones is there and there and there and there. The other crazy mixed up one that had the shooting stars on it is one here, one here, one here, and one here. So I just want to point out that you're not limited by just mixing up the squares as they were. It's a wonderful way to do it, and if you've got consistent colors and patterns and fabrics throughout the whole quilt, and you're trying to make a specific design, that's one way to do it. In my case, I have different fabric patterns, and I wanted to make sure that nothing was too busy, with a lot of stuff, designs all next to each other. I tried not to put, like this pattern here is in blue, but it's also in here in red and blue. So I tried not to put too many like patterns right next to each other. But there's still enough that they are close. At one point, I think I had this pattern and this pattern next to each other. And it just looked weird having 2 stripes sitting next to each other. It didn't work because there's not enough stripes to make it look like a pattern. So I went ahead and separated that up and did it that way. So this is what we do with quilting. We don't necessarily always know exactly what we want to do. That being said, I'm trying to decide. I think the next quilt, I had originally thought I was going to do a double Disappearing 9 patch, and I'm still going to do that one because I still find that one very interesting. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do a log cabin next. I've got this jelly roll that's been staring at me, and traditionally, log cabins have either red or orange in the center, and since this has red in it, I'm leaning towards using this one next. And that will be more of a standard design. It's not going to be nearly as much fussy as we've been doing with this one. It's going to be this color, and this color, because like I said, log cabin does have the red or orange traditionally in the center, and then it has a light and a dark. And so that one's going to be more set in tradition and styles. There are log cabins that are made that don't have those colors in the center, that use the log cabin pattern to make a total design on the quilt. I'm just going to make a lap quilt and see how that comes out. But for this one, we've done a lot of fussing and moving things around and looking at things and trying to decide what goes where. So we've got that down. All right, so we're going to need to put the squares together now that we've decided the order in which they're going to go in. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I can do this without totally messing up the pattern that I have decided on. I am going to try and take a bunch of these squares down off the design wall at the same time, like all of them at the same time, and then sew them up and press them and put them back up on the wall and not get them mixed up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to go across, and then I'm going to go across, and then that way when I stitch, this will be my first pair that I stitch. this is my plan. And I'm hoping and hoping and hoping that I got it right. I'm half tempted to take a picture of it as it is. You know what? I'm going to do that. That way I can look at it. So get my camera out. This is how I remember what something looks like when I've got it on the design wall. So camera. Convenience of having these lovely little, oh, you can't see me at all. It's convenience of having these lovely little gadgets in our hand. It does give us the ability to do this stuff because I can always delete it later. I don't have to keep it saved on my phone. But I'm going to step back there a little bit so that I can get a picture of it fully. And that way I know exactly what it looked like. Did you see that? Yep, you saw it. All right. So I've got a picture of what it looked like, and that way if I get confused at any point in time and I'm not certain I'm putting something back where it should go, I can go back to that picture and look at it and say, oh, I'm right, or oh, I'm wrong. All right, so left over, or right over left, clip so I know where to put the seam. All right, now this one has my pin in it because this has got a little bit shy of the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to make sure when I line up on that portion of the block. Because the top portion is going to be just shy of having a 1/4 inch. Let's go over here. Oh, so what's going to decide which quilt I make next is going to be how Amazon performs. Because with that black and white stripes and the red in the middle, I want to use white batting, and I don't have any white batting. I have ordered it, and it says it's expected to arrive on Monday. That would be a little bit too late if I start that quilt tomorrow. Then it depends on how fast I get this one done too. So we might be waiting. We might be doing the double disappearing 9-patch first anyway. It's going to depend on when that batting decides to show up, or when they think it might show up. Okay, let's go over to the sewing machine. Now, I have not set up the sewing machine today. I just turned it on. I didn't set it up, so I need to pick my favorite stitch, which is my piecing stitch. There we go. And we've got that all set up. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set up. Oop, I accidentally hit my foot. That's not what I wanted. All right, and we're going to get this started. And get it set in the needle down position. There we go. And these, I'm going to set them over here so they're out of the way but still very easily accessible. And now we sew. And I tried really hard to try and make sure I got the seams facing or not matching up anywhere, or so that I don't have to worry about nested seams. But we are going to have to be careful when we press these blocks, because these I'm going to need to make sure that I have the seams back and forth so that they're going to nest with each other. Okay, making sure, see how, got to keep this nice and straight. I wonder what happened here. I'm a whole 1/4 inch short. I bet you I cut one of these blocks wrong. Ooh, that's going to be challenging. We're going to have to see what happened there. I'm guessing one of these other blue ones is going to have to be bigger than the red one then. I don't know. Because that is a full 1/4 inch. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, this bottom one is a 1/4 inch bigger on the side. I have absolutely no idea how to fix this one. Yep, and there's another one here. And there should obviously be one more that's off because it's somewhere. I cut one too big. Now this is the one with the pin in it. This is the one where we knew we were short. And now we're going to make sure we do the seam along the red that's underneath. That way we don't have to worry about the top because it's just a little bit short. Not a lot. Not like the 1/4 inch some of these other ones. Oh, here's the 4th piece that's off. right, let's see if we can figure out if there's anything we can do with these pieces at this point. Or if we're just going to have to try and make a couple different wall hangings. Let's see. All right, so let's look and see what's going on here. These two are perfectly fine. No, I have not pressed them yet. Yes, I will get there. I want to figure out what I've got before I get too far along here. All right, these pieces are perfectly fine. And they were here. Here's where we start with our problem. This one has this piece 1/2 inch smaller, or 1/4 inch smaller than the piece up top. So there's no way to put a 1/4 inch seam on this and fix this. So this is a problem that we have to resolve. I don't know how well you can see from there. There's an extra 1/4 inch on the red piece here and a smaller one here. I want to measure and see which one's wrong. So that this is 2 1/4 inches, and that was cut. So I'm guessing, so this one must have been cut too short. 4 1/2. Yeah, this is still 4 3/4. This is still 4 3/4 long, and it should be at this point 4 1/4. 4 1/2. 4 1/2. All right. Let's see now. This one was over. Let's put this down here. This is a problem. This one is also a problem. This one, though, the 1/4 inch is on the side that I didn't sew. So this piece is longer than this piece. So it was this square that was cut wrong. And I'm looking at this center one right now, and it is 2 1/4. No, it's this way. And this way, it's 2 1/2. I cut it at 2 1/2 instead of 2 1/4. So that's where the problem lies. It's that piece right there. 4, okay. Now, so this one's a 1/4 inch short. This one is messed up. So these two are okay. So let's see how these two look with those two. All right, let's see. Let me look. Well, that doesn't actually look too bad. I kind of like it. And that would give us those 2 blocks. Now to figure out what to do with the other 4 pairs. Because they're all off by 1/4 inch, so they're never going to match up to these two. They're always going to be smaller. There's no way to make these blocks match up with these blocks. There's a way to make these smaller and match up to these. I could do that. I could trim 1/4 inch off all the way around. Let's see. So this would have to go this way. And that would go that way. So the 1/4 inch on this one needs to be off of this side. The 1/4 inch on this one needs to be off of this side. The 1/4 inch on this one needs to be off that piece. And the 1/4 inch on that one is off of that piece. You know, I don't think we're going to get it. So these 4 are no more. We're not going to worry about them. We're going to make a table runner, a small table runner at this point now. Instead of a large table runner, we're going to have a small table runner. And we're just going to use these 2 big blocks and do it that way. I could put some border around it, but honestly, if you've got a small table, it would work. I have a better idea. Let's look. How much of this do I have? I know what I'm going to do. And I think I can even do it with those. I can make those work too. Instead of just making it a table runner, let's make it a table runner that has the ability to be a hot pad also. So this is called Insulbright, and it has silver stuff in it that helps it so that it's how you make a hot pad or something like that. And I do like, I've got a couple of them that I use. Instead of having individual hot pads to put on my dinner table, I use the Insulbright and I make one larger table runner. And I like that way of having the table runner is the hot pad. So you can put all your hot items in the middle of the table where everybody can reach them, and you can get into it and you don't have to worry about it burning your table. So I have enough of this to do that, and then I could make those. I could even, and I'll probably do this later on, I won't do this today, either take these apart and make them small hot pads, which would be one idea, or keep some of them together and make other hot pads. All right, so we now have a plan. Never fails. See, we make mistakes, we just go with it. I can't believe after all the work I did, that was the 4th square that I cut. I must have been thinking about something else at the time and I wasn't paying attention. All right, so now we need to press our seams so that we can make sure that we can nest our seams. Let's get the iron heating up. Now I've got this bag lying around I don't need. Let me set this off to the side. Get it out of the way. Oh, technical services didn't fix my light yesterday. I will have to have a conversation with him about that. So I apologize about the flashing light. I know you can't see it too much. I did watch the video from yesterday, so I wanted to see how badly it was. And I know that you probably aren't seeing it nearly as much as I am. So we're going to go with that. All right, what was I doing? I was getting ready to press seams. All right, I'm going to press these towards the blue. I'm going to press them all towards the blue. That makes life easy. Okay. Finger press. Get this going. Alright, and then I'm going to take this. Okay, and then this one was facing that direction. Okay. Okay, and then this one goes this way. Excellent. Let's see here. This one looks like goes that way. Last but not least, that one goes that way. All right. Let's flip this up. Go here. Flip this. Go here. Okay. I need to move this so you can see what I'm doing. Here we need to make sure we get our seam nested correctly. Okay. Okay. Now we need to nest up these seams. Get it all straight and let's make sure we get it butted up. Okay. Trim off the end. And now, last but not least, we need to make sure that we can sew these two pieces together, and the only joints that are going to be butting are the ones we just sewed on. So I want to go this one to go this way. And this is where you get to the point where you just have no choice. You're going to have a seam showing through some light fabric, because we have to match it up, not as much, or we have to make sure we match it up. That's most important, so we can butt the seams up so we don't have extra. Alright, so it came off the machine this way. I've got the seams pressed this way. So this one, I want the seams pressed to this side. Okay, so now that seam's facing that way, that seam's facing that way, and we can butt up our joints. Over to the machine. Okay, get my joints butted up together. Get a pin in there so we don't have to worry about them slipping. And now we're going to sew. And now our seam's trying to sneak up on that foot. You always have to make sure when you've got the seams pressed the direction you're going, you got to make sure you get them, get them flipped over. Seams are butted up. Let's make sure they don't move. Okay. Look at this. This last seam, it doesn't matter which direction we press it in, obviously, because it's not going against anything. So I figured out what makes my light flash on and off. Every time my iron clicks, which means it's running to heat up, that's when the light starts flashing. So there is a correlation between that. All right, let's see here. Let's put this up here. I have to look at something. It just seems very small to me. It seems too small. Let me find out. If I look up here and I go to my search engine and I say, wait a minute. Search the web. There we go. Come on. What are the dimensions of a table runner? Let's see what it comes up with. The standard size for a table runner is anywhere from 10 to 14 inches wide to lengths from 36 to 108 inches long. All right, 10 to 14 we got covered. We are 13 and a half, and after we finish it, it's going to be 13. And I knew that. All right, and then the length from anywhere from 36. Okay, let's see, where are we at? We are at 26 and a half, which makes perfect sense because it's 13 the other way. Okay, so right now, finished, we're at 13 by 26. And we want to get to 36 so that we can be what a standard table runner would be. So let's think. That means we need to add 10 inches total. We're at a finished length of 26, so we're actually at 13.5 inches by 26.5 inches, which is finished 13 by 26. All right, so I need 10 inches on either side, or on both sides, total. So I need 5 inches on either side. If I want to make sure this is balanced, I'm going to be putting it on, I'm going to be putting something on this side, and I'm going to be putting something on this side. So that's 5 inches. I have 2-inch strips. They're 2.5-inch strips. They finished 2 inches. So if I do 2 of them, that would be 4 inches. That's not going to work. If I do the white in 2 inches, what do we got the most of here? So if I do 1 inch of red and 1 inch of blue, that's 2 inches. I'd need 3 inches of white. I don't have it. So what if I do 2 inches of red, 2 inches of blue, and 1 inch of white? No, there's less blue on the flag. So if I do 2 inches of red, 2 inches of white, and 1 inch of blue, that would actually be more reflective of the color scheme on the flag. All right, there we go. I can do that. So 2-inch red, 2-inch white, and 1-inch blue. And they only have to be 13.5 inches long, so they're not massively big. We do need, I'm going to use these for the border though, so I want to make sure that I have enough. So the finished size is going to be 36, 36, 13, and 13. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to need 98 inches of binding. And I have 3 colors that are 42 inches long. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. So I have 120. I had set aside 126 inches of fabric for binding. And I'll show you how we're going to do that, because we're going to do that a fun way too. So now I need 2 13.5-inch strips of red, 2 13.5-inch strips of white, and 2 1.5-inch strips of blue. There. That goes off to the side. I'm going to cut these at the same time. Actually, I'll cut them all, and then I'll trim this down. Okay. So first thing we have to do is we have to get rid of the salvage. Make sure you line up your ruler with one side of the strip so that you get it nice and straight. Off go the salvages. That's perfect. And then I need them to be 13.5 inches long. So now we have 2 spots to line up. We can line up along the edge of the fabric and along the side we just cut, because we know that's straight. We just cut it. All right, here we go. That takes care of that. Now, let's cut the blue down to be 1.5 inches. And since the scallops edges drive me crazy anyway, we're going to get rid of both sides of those. So first thing we'll do is trim just a little bit off the edge here. Just a little, just to get rid of that scallop. Apparently I need some water. There, did that? No, didn't do much good. And now, well, a little bit. We're going to turn it around and we're going to make it 1.5 inches wide because we want it 1 inch finished and we need 2 1/4-inch seams. So inch finished equals 1.5 inches cut. Line up all of your points of reference just so you're sure you've got it straight. And it is 1.5 inches. Measure twice. Not like I did with the other pieces. And now we have smaller strips. All right. So, as I have always said, I like to press continuously. What I'm going to do though is, since these seams are never going to intersect anything else, I am going to wait to press them until we are done stitching everything together. So here we go. That goes there. So first we're going to put on a red strip. And now we will attach a white strip to the red strip. And I just lost all my strips onto the ground. Come back here, strips. All right. And now I am going to put the blue on the white. And the strips have fallen on the ground again. Let's make my life a little easier this time. Let's put these three together first, and then attach them to the bigger portion. All right. The blue to the white. And this will be our last seam. For the top. Okay. So as I was sewing that, it dawned on me that I could have left the blue the 2 inches wide because it said 36 was the minimum size. So I could have made it so that it ended up being 38 inches long. That would have been perfectly fine. I didn't do that. I was coming up with the idea on the fly. I wasn't certain what to do, and so didn't think that all the way through. If I had taken my time, I probably would have come up with the fact that I could have just left the blue 2 inches wide. Let's see, let's get all of our extra pieces and little threads out of here. Come on, there we go. And then over on this side, there we go. All my little feeder fabric over here. And now let's get this all pressed up. Start with the red. I'm going to press to the red. This red doesn't match perfectly, but it's pretty close. The jelly roll that I had a bunch of different shades of red, and I don't know what I did with some of the other shades. I thought they were right here, but I'm not seeing them now. And I matched as best I could with the red, white, and the blues. Originally, this was just going to be the binding, so it wasn't as nearly as important. Looking at it here, it's sitting right next to the red. It's a little off, but it'll work. All right, now we're going to press to the red again, so we're not pressing to the white strip. We're going to press to the red strip. We always want to try and hide these seams behind the darkest color we can whenever possible. All right, so now we're going to flip this all over. Finger press down to the red. Come on, there we go. Quilt out of the way. And the blue. Since we're here, let's get it all done in one fell swoop. All right, now let's do our best press. That side's done. Let's get this side taken care of. get the red. Get the seams all sharp. All right, let's see how this turned out. All right, step back, let me look. So yeah, I'm not crazy about the red against the red, but it's enough that I can live with it. I think we probably should have put the blue against the blue. If I had put the little stripe of blue, I think that would have been a better option. But I'm okay with it. It looks okay. It doesn't look terrible. So we're going to keep that. I'm going to go with that. All right. And I mean, considering the challenges we've had with this particular quilt top, I would say it turned out pretty darn good considering. All right. Let's talk about the binding. So I just determined earlier that we're going to need 98 inches of binding. And I have 3 different colors that I'm going to use on my binding, which is going to be fun. We're going to have a three-colored binding. And so what's 98 divided by 3? Let's see. It's not going to be an even number, obviously. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 8 2 times. So 32 inches of each color is what we're going to be using. 32 and a half-ish, quarter-ish. Anyway, so about 32 inches. And 32 is an even number, so I like that. That's why I'm using 32 instead of 33. And then what we can do is we can make these strips shorter. Because I don't want to do an entire stripe of blue, an entire stripe of white, an entire stripe of red. That's not how I want to do it. I want to do it where we have some red, then we go to some white, then we go to some blue, then we go back to red, white, blue, and it's continuous all the way around the binding. And since 32 is an even number, I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to have, let's see, if I do 8-inch strips, do 5-inch strips, 32 divided by 8 is an even number, isn't it? Ah, silly phone. Let's see, calculator, come here, there we go. Calculator. I know 36 divided by 8 is an even number. Yes, 32 divided by 8 is 4. I thought it was, I wasn't doing multiplication well in my head. So, 8-inch strips would give us 4 of each color. And then, of course, we're going to have the, where we bind it together and join it up, that we're going to have a different amount. So, red, we'll need 4 8-inch strips. So let's see here. I can get 6, there's 22 inches here. You know what, I'm going to do 4 9-inch strips, just so that we have the extra when we go around. So I want to make sure when we get around, well, actually I'll do the blue and the white in 8-inch strips. And the red, I'm going to do 2 8-inch strips, and I'm going to do 2 like 11-inch strips. That way, no, I don't want the red to join to the blue. That's not right either. You got to think this through. Got to do the math. I want the blue to join to the red. So white I know is going to be 8-inch strips. That's easy. And then I want 1 blue that's 11 inches long and 1 red that's 11 inches long so they can join together. There we go. Knew I'd figure it out eventually. All right, so let's get the white cut. So we know all 4 of those strips are going to be 8 inches. Eight and a half. Cut them 8 1/2 because you want them finished 8 inches. Okay, that's extra. All right, the blue and the red. Oh, now I'm losing both light bulbs. That's going to be fun. And hopefully you can't hear the noise they're making. That would be annoying. All right, let's see here. Now hopefully I've done the math correctly. But I'm kind of winging it on this quilt at this point anyway, so we'll just have to see. All right, so that's 2 of each of those. Let's open that up. And now I need another 8-inch strip. 8 1/2 inch. Please tell me I did 8. I did. 8 1/2 inch strip. Finished 8. Gotta add that 1/2 inch, otherwise you'll get all messed up. Okay, to those, and then to avoid the fold, let's go down to the other side. That way I don't have to press it. And get a couple of 11s, might even go 12, just so I'm sure I have enough. Let's see, 12, still going to keep me from getting to the fold, so I'm going to actually go with the 12. I'm going to have really long tails on this, but hey, that's okay. So with the binding we've done in the past, it doesn't matter which one gets joined where. In this case, we need to make sure that this red gets joined first and this blue gets joined last. And I should have pressed it all before I started, but wasn't thinking. Okay. So now we're going to press it just so that we know which side's up and which side's down. With the last quilt we did with the binding, it didn't really matter because the fabric had a design on the top of it, so therefore you could always tell which one was top and which one was bottom. In this case, we cannot tell which one is top and which one's bottom because they're the same color on both sides. So it is vitally important that you press them so you know where the top and the bottom is and you don't get your binding all twisted up. We want to make absolute certain we don't get our binding twisted. Oh, so why, you might ask, am I making binding before I do the quilting? Well, in the last one, I did all of the quilting first and then did the binding completely. And since I normally do quilts in much longer stages, I don't do them nearly as quickly as I'm doing them now for the live version, I forgot that it is easier to get the binding all put together and out of the way before you start quilting so that you don't have to switch back and forth between your walking foot and your piecing foot and your regular needle and your quilting needle and all that good stuff. So I decided that I would go ahead and do the binding right away. It actually makes sense. It was just something I had forgotten about. Because like I said, in the past, I have gotten around to quilting. After I piece something, it sits around my house for a couple months, couple years, before I get around to actually quilting it. And I had just completely forgotten the fact that right after you quilt, if you go straight to quilting after you get done piecing and don't get the binding out of the way, you're switching feet and needles back and forth constantly. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that I did the math correctly on this. It's been a while since I've done a binding that is multicolored. And I'm not 100% certain about the distance, but I think I got it right. And I think we'll be able to get the blue to come around and match up to the red in the end, which is the ultimate goal. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather have white in between the blue and the red, but it wouldn't be color correct. Unless I did red, white, blue, white, red, white, blue, white, and that would get tedious, I think. We'll have to see. I have enough fabric, so we'll see. And since the binding is going to be the different colors and it's going to end up at the end being blue into red, we do need to decide where we want that to happen. I would think right up here would be a good place. Again, keeping in mind this is going to be laying on a table. This is going to be a table runner now. So you're not going to see it hanging on a wall the way it is currently. Okay. Now we're going to go to the machine and see about getting these put together. All right, machine. So to make binding, we take the right side of the fabric. We know it's the right side because it's got the fold in the top. And we match it up to the right side of the next piece of fabric we want. In this case, we want it to be the white fabric. And we are going to sew from one corner to the other corner. Feel free to put a line on there if you want. I'm not going to, but you're more than welcome to. I've done it in the past. I'm just not going to mess with it right now. And remember, you're going from the outside to the outside. If you go from the inside of the V to the outside of the V, it will not sit correctly. So make sure you've got your fabric right sides together. In this case, we know we are because we've got the folds faced together. And then we're going to sew from outside corner to outside corner. So normally I would take this and flip it around and sew the next seam, but because of the fact that our strips are so short, I'm not going to be able to do that. So right side to right side. Now we're going to need feeder fabric all the way around here. This is going to be fun. Blue, red, blue. Almost there, last round. Just one short on feeder fabric. Doesn't that figure? I don't have anything else here. Nope. And the long blue piece so that I have extra to be able to tuck in between the red and the blue and cut off and all that good stuff. Okay. Let's get this clipped up and pressed. So now we've got all sorts of things to clip. Got our feeder fabric and our tails. Don't forget the tails. And okay, got that all trimmed up. And now we need to get rid of all the fabric at the 1/4 inch. Again, I am going to eyeball it. If you want to set it down here, use your cutter or ruler, measure it, get an exact 1/4 inch, go for it. I'm not that particular. I am going to cut close enough. Now sometimes I cut too close, so don't get too close to it. You do want to still give it the 1/4 inch so it has something to hold on to. Oh, wow, we're getting hot in here today. No wonder I'm feeling a little warm. Got some new lights that Steve picked up that are generating a lot of heat. And of course, today I decided to wear a long sleeve shirt. That was really stupid on my part. I will know not to do that again next time. All right, I'm going to set this over here for feeder fabric for the next quilt in case I need it. And move my ruler out of the way. And get this all pressed down. Now, with binding as opposed to with the others, we're not going to press to either side. Binding, we want the seams pressed open. That way the extra fabric is evenly distributed in amongst the seam, because the seam's going to be folded in half. So you're already going to get double fabric or double bulk anyway. So you want to press it down and then continue pressing around. So with this type of binding, you do have a lot more seams to press. I'm going to go through actually and do all these in a row and just get them all open, and then I'll worry about folding the binding in half. I got a little stingy with my seam here. Not like I told you not to do, don't do too small, because then you don't have a lot to press. Finger press to get it open a little bit, and then use your iron. Okay, there we go. Finger press the seam open and use the iron. Alright, I am going to go turn my fan on. Be right back. Let's see if that can get some of that hot air out of here. Probably not, but we can try. Should have thought of the fan earlier. Next batch. Okay. Got them all pressed open. Now we're going to press them all back closed. Okay, let's see here. Like this. And just keep an eye on those seams, make sure they stay open. And don't fold on top of each other as you're going. Okay. Now we have to use the best press and get it all sharp as we can be. Gosh darn it, it got a little wonky on that side. Let's see if we can get it straight. Just so you know, you can buy pre-made binding. I don't see any purpose in it. It's very expensive for what you get. There's no need for it. And this way, I'm able to pick exactly what I want my binding to look like, and do it however I want. And I do like doing fun things like this, where you put the different colors all the way around. It's not something everybody does all the time. So it looks just a little bit different, and it just looks special. If you didn't have a jelly roll strip, thinking of that, I happen to have a jelly roll that I wanted to use up, so I happen to have the exact amount or the exact width I needed. I do cut my binding to 2.5 inches. Some people cut their binding to 2.25 inches just to give it a little bit less, to give it a little tighter look. I prefer to have the 2.5. I don't like. I'm very bad about sometimes missing the stitching. I do not hand stitch on the back of the quilt. I go ahead and just machine stitch it, and sometimes I miss my stitching. So I like to have that extra 1/4 of an inch so that I can make sure that everything is how I want it to be. Okay, so I determined earlier I needed 98 inches of binding. Let's see what I ended up with. There's 20. There's 40. There's 60. And I ended up with 79 inches. So I don't have enough. I have 79. So when I did my math, I did something wrong, which I'm not surprised at. I was fully expecting that that was going to be a possibility. I had already done the math for a bigger size quilt, so therefore I'm not surprised. Let's see. Let me make sure. Nope. Won't even finish the third side. All right, so I'm going to need more binding. Let's see here. How am I going to do this? I need 79, 8. I need about 20 inches that I have to have. So let's look. What do I have left here? Cut this down. How long did this end up finishing at? It finished at 11.5. So I only lost a half. I lost the exact amount I thought I was going to lose. So this needs to be trim down the blue to the 8-inch length. I want to go this way. So I've got the 1/4 of an inch used in that seam, so I'm going to measure this to be 8 1/4 so that it's the right length. And then the red I'm going to measure to be 8 1/4 on this side. So it's the correct. How much did I lose there? Yeah, I lost the 1/4 of an inch. So that's right. It's just looking long to me. All right. Let's get some more 8 1/2 inch strips. How are these? These are 8. So I will need to press all 3 of these to get them usable. Because right now that seam makes them tough to use. Okay, and what did I say I need? I need 20 inches, and if one of them is 8, that leaves me 16, which means the other 2 8s. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I am going to add a red onto here, but I'm going to cut the red to be 8.5 inches long. And the blue and the white, I'm going to leave the length they are. I'm not going to cut them at all. All I'm going to do is I'm going to attach them to one to the red, the white to the red, and the blue to the red on the other side, and then we'll use the white and the blue as the parts that get joined together. So I do have to press these so that I know which sides are up and down. That's going to go to the blue. Sorry, being in the nosy neighbor, looking out the window, see things going on. House next door is getting pressure washed, and just because I believe they're getting ready to paint. They had somebody out front that had a paint truck, so my guess is they're getting ready to paint the house. Here in my neighborhood, we're required to paint our house every 5 years, and our houses are all or every 3 years, and our houses are all coming up. Maybe it is 5. No, it is 5. It is every 5 years. And it's coming up on 5 years in the fall, so some people are getting a jump start on it. We're probably going to wait until next summer. Because we have been here for 3 years. We know the house will be 4 years old in November, because it was started and completed by someone else before we got here. So yeah. All right, now let's do this and this. Let's go back to the sewing machine and get these put together. Okay. Oh, almost knocked over my shelves there. These are my 2 pieces to go together. This is my blue. This is my red. White. Those 2, and now over here, let's get the blue attached to the red on this side. Yeah, let's see if we have enough this time. All right. Tail, feeder fabric. All right, let's get this piece pressed. Pressed this way. So the neighbor on that side is concerning yourself with what's going on in the house on this side. We're just kind of in the middle, I think. Let's see here. All right, now let's press these down. So I absolutely have to have 98 inches. That's what I determined. And I have to have another 5 inches so that my binding can overlap on the ends so that I can join it all up. Now that I think about that, I should have thought about that earlier. Let's see, so 98 plus 5 is going to be 103. So we're going to have to see if I have 103 inches of binding, or if we get to do some more of this fun binding. I do still have full strips from the jelly roll of the red, white, and blue. Not quite in the exact same shades, but close. Let's get the binding on the other side of the iron. That's a step in the right direction. Now, sharpen down the seam. Careful when you go backwards. It wrinkles up the fabric sometimes. I'm known for doing that. That's how I know about that problem. Okay, let's measure again. Now remember, we need 105 inches. 20. Or 103. 40. 60. 80. 100. 1, 2, 3 and a half. 103 and a half. So it looks like we have just barely enough, which is not necessarily where I wanted to be, but hey, it's better than not having it at all. Let's see here. Let's let it dry. Okay, binding is out of the way. So now we need to make our sandwich. Move this over here so we can do math later if we need to. Get our safety pins. All right, so we're switching over from piecing mode to quilting mode. Let's get more room on the table here. Get that out of the way. Binding out of the way, get our rulers, put them away. Okay. So now we need a piece of backing fabric. I have this white fabric, which is really, really long. It is folded over twice. And it is 13 inches long. Yeah. And there are, let's see. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's long. That's big backing fabric. So I only need to cut it to width, because length I'm going to be good. I always want to give yourself about 1 inch on either side. And we do not have to be exact with this. This is one of those places where we're going to be trimming it off later anyway, so we're fine. Gave myself about an inch. And we're going to get this fabric out of the way. Put this back up here so it doesn't actually get cut or moved or any of those fun activities. And now we need to press this so that it is not all full of wrinkles. Got a little heavy with my best press. You don't need to put that much on. I put more on because I wanted to be able to get the wrinkles out. And what happens is the plate gets all gooky. Yeah, technical term. And then it hangs onto the fabric and it doesn't go away. And then it makes more wrinkles. So light presses. You don't have to go hog wild with it. It works really well. All that's going to happen is if you use a ton of it, you're going to have to get more. All right, do I have enough to cover the back of that yet? I do. Excellent. Now, this is getting set off to the side because I still have those other blocks that I have to figure out what to do with. And I hate throwing fabric away. I just hate it. So I'm going to try and figure out something to do with it. All right. There we go. So we have this, so we have this. Now, our Insulbrite. Let's see. Which way do I want to go? I think I want to go this way. Do I have enough to go this way? I do have enough to go that way. All right. That's the top. There's the bottom. this off to the side because I might do the same thing with the other set. Do that. Put this on here. And now this. Where am I? Cut. There we go. All right. Let's see. Nope, those are separate pieces, so that's not going to work. Let's go this way. This is what happens when you piece and part things with quilt. The batting. Let's see. Is that going to work? Yes, that is wide enough. Batting out of the way. And let's see how much of this I actually need. I cut it a little big. Yep, all right, so I can cut it off that tail. That off to the side. Backing fabric. Batting. So now sometimes when you buy this, it is very silver. Sometimes it's little silver. The silver side needs to be up. That's what makes it heat resistant. And finally, we are going to put our pieced quilt on top. The insole bright is just wide enough, so we need to make sure that we have it set correctly. There we go. So now our pinning is going to be a little more challenging because we have an extra layer here now. And some of these pins are open, some of them aren't. I've used some of them, but it is a newer pack. So be careful if you do like I do and leave them open in the box. Now, I have not even begun to consider how I'm going to quilt this, and I really need to do that. I don't free motion. I've mentioned that before, but just in case you're new. Oh, and that reminds me, if you are new and you like what you're seeing, go ahead and click on the like button. And if you want to know when I'm going to be doing something next where I screw something up royally and have to try and figure out how to fix it, which is always a fun thing to watch, go ahead and click on the subscribe button. That way you can know when I'm going to be live again. I'm not going to be live tomorrow, I can tell you that right now. I have other things that I have to do, so I'm not going to be around tomorrow. I know I'm going to be back on Monday live. I've got something. Monday I'm planning on doing the black and white log cabin in a lap quilt size. All right, so when you're pinning, the purpose of this is to get everything tight and so that when you quilt, you don't have wavy fabric all over the place. So I like to smooth my hand out and go to the next pin. That way I can get it nice and tight. And I will hold it taut as I'm quilting it too. So make sure that it's taut, that the backing fabric is taut. That's why we had to iron it, to make sure it was pressed and not all over the place. And that's also why we start at the center. We're going to start at the center and now we're going to work our way out so that we can smooth everything out as much as possible. And this is called pin basting. You can hand baste, where you just take a needle and thread and starting again at the center, going out, baste everything together, keeping everything taut. I find that challenging. Any hand stitching for me is challenging. Then the other option is to use a thread. I've got some over here. It washes out. So once you put it on, it holds everything together until you're done with it. Then you wash the quilt and this stuff goes away. And the Insulbright is washable. Where's my bag? I feel like there's directions I remember seeing. There they are. And the oven mitt directions, care and use. Not for use in the microwave. This is not for the potato bags, so don't use this stuff for the potato bags. And it says, machine wash, warm, tumble dry. Use warm iron if needed. I always recommend washing all of these on delicate anyway. Any quilts I've made, I tell everybody, just wash them on delicate. And if you want to dry them, most dryers these days have an air dry option. That's the route you want to take. You want to try and get it air dried as opposed to really hot heat. So just keep that in mind when putting these together. You can wash them, so you can use the thread that washes out if you want, and baste it that way. I've been doing the pin basting forever. I'm used to it, so that's what I do. Obviously I've done the machine basting with the washable thread because otherwise I wouldn't have it. I find it distracting because you can't see how your quilt design is looking. And since I don't free motion quilt, I stitch in the ditch and things like that from one side to the other. I prefer to be able to see what it's looking like as I'm going along. Right now, my intention is I believe I'm going to stitch around this square almost, and then up, and then back down that way, and do the same thing on this block in the same direction, and potentially that way and that way. I'm going to have to look at it and see how it looks, and then I know I'm going to stitch in the ditch now on these borders. I'm thinking I might do a zigzag back and forth on the red with white thread and white with the red thread. I don't know. I'm going to have to see. And I don't think we're going to get to that today because we're already looking at 118. And with everything that has happened today, I'm thinking that getting this sandwich done is about as far as I'm going to go before I decide that I don't want to mess anything else up today. So might just not be the day for me, which means since I do have things to do tomorrow, we won't be able to get this quilt done tomorrow. But tomorrow is Wednesday, so hopefully on Thursday, I don't have any reason not to. Thursday was the day I originally planned on doing the live streams anyway, and I've just to get started, I have been doing them more frequently, and just to get some more content out there and see if anybody's interested in any comments and things like that we might have. So Thursday will be the day. I will post it out there that Thursday is the day we're going to do part 3 of this quilt and get it done. And then depending upon what's going on with me tomorrow, how soon I get things completed, I may try and fix the other half of this quilt that got messed up and see how I want to do that. Because like I said, I may just take them apart and make actual small hot pads out of them, or trim them up and see if I can get them together to get some bigger hot pads, or not make hot pads at all and just have them be a decoration. Let's see. Go here. The red. Now we're going to do the blue. Half. All the layers, yes we do. Excellent. The more I look at this, I really do like the way it turned out. Even though, you know, we've had our challenges, I do like the way the fabrics came together. Now in this case, what we did end up with was the square that was solid red. We got all 4 pieces of that. That was mostly red. We got all 4 pieces of that. And then we've got 2 of the blue. And 2 of the one that was mixed red, white, and blue. The one that wasn't cut incorrectly. As you remember, I had them, the way I had them designed on the wall, there were 2 of each of the multicolored ones that were mixed up with each other. So that's how we ended up with what we did. Okay, so now I've got it pinned. I'm going to check on the back. It's a little bubbly here and there, but it's not terrible, so we should be okay. It seems to be okay. There are people that lay down the backing fabric and tape it down. I've seen that done. It does get the backing fabric a lot more taut than doing it this way, because we will have some bubbles in the back. But when I do the quilting, I'm going to try and get rid of as much of that as I can. Is this going to be too heavy to hang on the wall, or are we going to be able to do it? All right. So this is where we're stopping today. Thank you for putting up with all of my little trials and tribulations today. It was a challenging day. Quilting is not always as easy as it looks. There are things that go wrong from time to time, and so we have to figure out how to handle those situations. And that's why I dropped my quilt size down. I was able to do that, make the table runner different, add some borders just to get it to the right size. Did mean that we were then able to use the Insulbright because I didn't have enough for it to be. The reason it was out was because I was looking to see if I could make the bigger table runner heat proof as a hot pad, and I wasn't able to. So that's how I knew I had enough when it turned out this way. So that worked out. The binding, we get the binding taken care of. We're going to have to see if that's going to be enough to get all the way around. I think we're going to just barely squeak by on that with the next one. But our next episode or part for this particular quilt will be at this point a couple days from now, and we will get it quilted up. I don't know what colors I'm going to use for the quilting yet. I'm going to have to look at that, but we will get it quilted up. We'll be using our walking foot. We'll be using the stitch in the ditch walking foot if I can, or if I decide I am going to stitch in the ditch, I'm going to pull that one out. And then we will put the binding on and get it all finished up with our label and everything else. You never can tell. We might even have a second one to do, depending upon how ambitious I'm feeling tomorrow. But I do appreciate you visiting with me today. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to know when I'm going to be back on, I do post when at least a day or two before that I'm going to be back on live. And so if you want to check that out, check out any of my other videos. I've got 2 projects. Well, this is this is my second project on YouTube. I do have another project that I went live for on Facebook. And so I've got 3 projects technically out there, and I am planning next week to be live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, pending some any technological problems. So thank y'all. You have a lovely day.